Look at the x-axis on this chart. That vertical spike marks June 1st, the day tech giants stopped subsidizing AI tools and switched to metered API billing. Practically overnight, the economic reality inverted. Enterprise code generation is no longer functionally free. For the past year, we've seen the rise of a specific habit among junior developers, born out of that subsidized era. It's called tokenmaxxing. Tokenmaxxing is the practice of blindly brute-forcing code generation. Instead of planning, they write a lazy prompt, rely on unoptimized iterations to stumble into working scripts. When AI access was $20 a month, companies ignored the bloat. But under a metered model, those hundreds of rapid-fire queries scale into massive invoices. Because every request is now metered, the cost of development is no longer fixed. It is now directly tied to the efficiency of the developer's individual queries. This corporate financial shock is starting to rewire industry hiring standards for incoming talent. To protect these margins, hiring managers are shifting their focus toward candidates who demonstrate architectural control before they ever invoke an agent. Foundational engineering and architectural discipline must now precede any attempt at automated code generation. Strong engineering fundamentals are the primary metric for technical viability because they provide the only reliable mechanism to control corporate compute costs. To see exactly how these costs spiral, we need to compare the software development lifecycle under the old subsidized environment versus the new metered reality. This diagram illustrates the tokenmaxxing loop on the left. It starts with a developer feeding a poorly defined prompt into an IDE environment. Because the initial prompt lacks architectural constraints, the agent generates thousands of lines of bloated, inaccurate code. Instead of debugging manually, the developer prompts the AI 50 more times just to patch the errors created by their first lazy query. That 50 iteration cycle quickly rings up $500 in API fees. The previous flat-rate subscriptions completely masked this computational bloat. Now look at the efficient engineering loop on the right, which resolves the exact same coding issue for a single dollar. The developer first uses clean Python object-oriented programming principles to map out the system logic before querying the AI at all. This rigorous architectural foundation allows the developer to craft a single, highly precise prompt. That targeted request minimizes the API call size, drastically reducing the financial footprint of the solution. Enterprise companies now exclusively demand this efficient loop. Operating on the expensive, iterative tokenmaxxing cycle is becoming a fireable offense. Let's ground these abstract flowcharts in the physical reality of an upcoming technical interview. A persistent misconception among junior engineers is that deploying massive AI pipelines demonstrates high competence to a hiring manager. In practice, relying on an AI agent to generate these highly complex solutions is almost always an attempt to mask a deep lack of foundational system design knowledge. Consider this node map for a simple data classification task. You have a massive deep learning pipeline up top and a standard neural network below. The deep learning pipeline carries extreme computational weight, demands highly complex architecture, and incurs massive deployment costs. The standard neural network resolves the exact same task with significantly lighter computational requirements and a fraction of the cost. Utilizing the heavy pipeline for a basic classification problem is gross overkill. If you sit at that boardroom table and brag about deploying the heavy deep learning model, the senior engineer conducting the interview immediately recognizes the overkill as a fundamental lack of mathematical and structural understanding. Highlighting heavy, unoptimized code mathematically flags you as an economically ignorant developer, practically guaranteeing interview failure. Diagnosing the tokenmaxxing problem leads directly to establishing the new operational standard for software development. Surviving the era of metered billing requires a strategy of project-based efficiency. The absolute first rule of the strategy is visible at the bedrock layer of this token-optimized flowchart. You must architect logic and map data structures manually before you ever open an AI assistant. Mapping this raw logic requires zero external API credits and establishes the strict structural guardrails for the entire project. The second rule prioritizes local execution for intelligence tasks before reaching out to the cloud. Small language models, or SLMs, act as the new intermediate step in the software engineering pipeline. Running these models locally on edge compute completely bypasses external cloud billing while still providing substantial AI utility. Only after exhausting those local options do you reach the final, highly restricted layer where external cloud calls are permitted. Heavy cloud LLMs must only be pinged as a targeted, minimized resource of absolute last resort. This deliberate, highly controlled layered approach replaces the expensive habit of launching an AI coding assistant as step one. This strict framework must be applied immediately to university projects and technical hackathons. The ultimate goal of a developer is achieving a fully compiled solution using the absolute minimum amount of external AI compute. Zooming out across the enterprise ecosystem, you see the impact. Chaotic, continuous API calls are dissolving into clean, streamlined architectures, making few deliberate data pings. The tech industry is no longer subsidizing lazy development. Automated coding without structural and financial consequences is a closed chapter. To get hired in 2026, you must prove to enterprise companies that you prioritize computational efficiency. Companies demand an efficient architectural orchestrator, not a blind iterative prompter. Challenging, I want you to apply this exact token efficiency mindset to your very next coding sprint. If you need the practical skills to execute this, let me know, and I will produce a technical deep dive on exactly how to track your API costs directly via terminal. When every token has a price, your value as an engineer is defined by the logic you write before ever asking AI for help.